Hey yo, so what's good, what's poppin', brand new whip, just hopped in. Basically I just want to make this video to be real with you guys. I want to make this video about impulsivity. So, what is impulsivity? Impulsivity, or an impulsive behaviour, is broadly defined as actions without foresight that are poorly conceived, prematurely expressed, unnecessarily risky, and inappropriate to the situation. Impulsivity is associated with undesirable rather than desirable outcomes. Sorry about that. Though not yet exclusive to people with borderline personality disorder, if you have BPD, you may find yourself struggling to manage impulsive behaviours. From making hasty decisions to getting into fights, impulsivity can cause harm to yourself and those around you, in addition to undermining relationships and your overall sense of well-being. Impulsive behaviours can also lead to financial and legal harm if left unchecked. Fortunately, ding, 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 there are treatments that can help bring impulsivity under control, including psychotherapy, mindfulness training, and pharmaceutical drugs. Impulsivity, let's talk about it on a real level. Have you ever done something and then thought about it after? I do it all the time. I'm a really impulsive eater. I eat first and then I think about how much I've eaten after, and then I feel ashamed of it because I don't actually want to eat that much. I'm just eating because I'm bored and I want to be doing something all the time. But these impulsive behaviours are so knitted into BPD that I'm recognising that I'm even doing it with YouTube. So my first video that got noticed, if you will, that was made out of impulse. I was in a really weird mood. I felt like I had to do something in that exact moment, and if I didn't, like, it felt like my whole world was just going to cave in and I needed some sort of release. But it was impulsive. I didn't think about what I was releasing before I did it. You know, I didn't expect any of this stuff to actually happen because of it. It was just impulse, you know. I just felt like I had to do it. Or again, going back to the eating, I will eat like a full chocolate bar and a packet of biscuits at the same time before I even recognise that I'm eating them, if you know what I mean. With aggression and anger, this is where you need to be very, very careful, because this is where BPD isn't, I'm going to be very honest with you, isn't particularly nice, or in my experience hasn't been particularly nice. I've had instances in my life where people have said that they are scared of me because of my anger outbursts, because of splitting, which I'm sure we'll get into another time. But the anger impulsivity can be very dangerous, and it can inflict harm to others as well as yourself. You've got to remember that these impulsive behaviours can also lead down the self-harming route and all that types of stuff. A good sort of thing to do is to practice mindfulness, and also be aware of these impulsive behaviours. Once you catch that you're being impulsive, just remember your emotions don't control you, you control them. You are in control of your mind and body. Remember that. You have to remember that, because if you don't, you will head down the wrong path. So please, 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 keep control of your impulsive behaviours. Start noticing when they're happening. Anyway, back to the exercise. So the exercise is simply breathe in for 7, hold for 7, out for 8. I use this so often when I'm really emotionally vulnerable, and you know, I'm crying and something has happened and it's made me really quite sad. I use this to sort of bring myself back to that neutral state. Or if I'm angry, again, if I can find it within me to notice that this is an impulsive thing, then I take the time to breathe through it all, counting really helps with the sort of calming down. But yeah, I use that a lot in my day-to-day life, and I feel the power of it, because I once used it after an acting exercise where I was just completely overcome with grief and emotion, and I was just very vulnerable and emotionally weak at that point, and I was really struggling to get out of character. It felt like my character's thoughts were my thoughts, and my thoughts were my character's thoughts, and I kind of got stuck in this world where I didn't know if I was the character or myself, and I was quite distraught because of it, and I used that countless times until eventually I calmed myself down to the point where I could recognise that I was me and that was him. Right, anyway, let's go back onto impulsivity. The characteristics are hot-headed, rash, unpredictable, unstable. Now, I'd like you guys, these may sound like bad terms, but I'd like you to not see them as bad terms. I would like you to see them as warning signs. You are not hot-headed, rash, unpredictable, unstable. You are if you let yourself be those things. If you're aware that you act on impulse, take yourself out of a situation, find other ways to work around the things. It is in fact the instability that best characterises BPD as a disorder. People with BPD typically struggle with feelings of inadequacy that manifest with unstable emotions, unstable behaviours, and unstable relationships. They may be quick to lash out at anything considered a slight, and will often fail to recognise those emotions as unreasonable or excessive. Now, often fail to recognise how those emotions are unreasonable or excessive. I still struggle with this. I read this theory the other day that my friend, he gave me a book, and it was called The Chimpanzee Theory, and I can't remember who the book was by, but basically it speaks about how when you're born you have yourself, which is the logical thinking, the reasonable, the sensible, the knows what's best for you thinking Reece. So when I was born, that's that. And then there's a chimpanzee version of Reece, which is the emotional, the puts pieces of the puzzle together, the keeps me safe chimpanzee when I'm born. Now you put those two together. Now normally the chimpanzee is something like 3 times as strong as Reece's brain. So the chimpanzee brain is 3 times stronger than Reece's brain. You put that with BPD, and the chimpanzee, the emotional thinking brain, is 7 times stronger than the logical thinking brain. Now when you know this, and once you've accepted the fact that your chimpanzee is 7 times as strong as your logical thinking brain, again, don't quote me on this, because I'm just sort of explaining this from my knowledge of what I understood of the book. I'll try and find the book, and I'll leave it down in a link. Anyway, but yeah, dealing with this 7 times stronger than you chimpanzee all the time can be very draining, and will release those impulsive behaviours. But what you have to remember is the emotional thinking side of your brain can never do any damage to your physical body. Can never ever do it. It can only do damage if you react to that chimpanzee, that emotional side of your brain. That's the only way that physical damage can come to you as a person. So what you have to remember is, although your brain might be going absolutely crazy and insane, and just like exploding with ideas and different thoughts, and this way and that way and up there and down there, and literally so many thoughts, you can always come back to the fact that you always have the physical self, and as long as you can just grit your teeth and get through it, which as someone with BPD you'll have to learn to deal with. I don't think this thing is ever going to go. There, I said it. It says on websites that it's 7 years, and it tends to start disappearing. It's been 7 years for me, and I'm still the same person. I've learnt a lot of things, and I've changed who I am as a person, but the BPD still is there as an underlying thing. The way that I think is now more the BPD and the thoughts that come along with that, the irrational thinking, is still very much there. What I have learnt to do as I've got older is just be able to decipher between those thoughts and see which one is the chimpanzee and which one is me. And once you kind of get to grasps on what you actually want and what your brain is telling you that you want, then good things start happening. I've rambled on. I have no idea where this video was going. It's about impulsivity. I just keep on going off on tangents. Lots of stuff. I'll leave it all in the description so you can have a read through it. I'll just leave you with this. The different types of behaviour that can become impulsive with BPD, and each situation is different. There are, however, themes and scenarios that are common among people with BPD, including, now listen very carefully, if you notice that you are doing any of these things, recognise that it's an impulsive behaviour if you are doing it impulsively. If you do it before you think, recognise that. Once you've recognised that, then you know how to work around it. So, abruptly changing or cancelling plans, binge eating or drinking. I do that. Clearing out belongings to start anew. Constantly turning over a new leaf. Destroying property. Escalating confrontations. I used to be so explosive. I was like a gas fire ready to be lit with a match. Thankfully I'm not like that anymore, but yeah, again, recognise if you do that. Frequent emotional outbursts. Inability to receive criticism without affront. Joining and quitting a lot of groups. Jumping to conclusions. This is another thing with BPD. You seem to think of something like, okay, I've had a dream about this person and this person, and then they start doing something to that in real life, and then I'll put the pieces of the puzzle together, and then exactly what happened in the dream is going to happen in real life. And it's like, nope. Meaningless or risky sex. Be very careful with that. Over-apologising. Oversharing of emotions, overspending, physical violence, again, not okay. Never okay. Physical violence, never okay. Quitting a job suddenly, self-harm, self-mutilation, threatening to harm oneself or others. It's a big list. It's a very big list, and don't feel bad if any of these things are... If you have any of these impulsive behaviours, don't feel ashamed of yourself or anything like that. That's not what this is for. What this is for is for you to be able to recognise them, to be able to change those impulsive behaviours. I will admit, I still do some of these things. I do still do some of these things, but I have also erased some of these things off my list. And if I can do it, you can do it. We're all in this together. If you like the video, feel free to subscribe, drop a like, hit the comment button, tell me what type of videos you'd like to see next. Videos are impulsive. Even even this was just impulse. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is impulse. Look at it. What on earth is that? Life is so mad. I will be real with you again now. I don't know who I am in these videos. I really don't. I'm trying to be the person that can help all of you, and it's just a confusing because I could barely look after myself. You know what I mean? Like, it makes me feel so good that all you can relate to me. Like, it's just mad. It's just so mad. And I do still get so nervous, and, you know, when I talk about stuff, I feel like I'm releasing too much, and I might make a video on it at some point in the future on how YouTube and BPD is a very just intimidating mix. Like, the anxiety that I get, again, like, even that I'm talking about this now, I'm recognising that I'm playing with this and I'm putting it on my finger, and yeah, it's just mad. It is just mad, and I'm just grateful that you're all so supportive, because being myself, I guess, is what's the word? Vulnerable. Being myself is vulnerable. Right, lots of love. Jesus. Bye.